What kind of message will USC and Lincoln Riley send to Arizona State this weekend?
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching me on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, we are free. I appreciate your support. You can show your appreciation. It's so easy. If you're watching on YouTube, click that red subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and I don't want you to miss one episode. Monday through Friday, click that bell notification button, and you're covered. Because these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions do apply. So, what are we looking for from each position group when they get down to Tempe, Arizona, taking on the Sun Devils from Arizona State? Checking out the rundown. USC at Arizona State. What should we expect? I talked about, throughout the week that Arizona State is undermanned and overmatched. They're going to have a hard time keeping up with USC. Now, a little bit of respect. It is on the road. USC playing on the road. First game of the season. Well, first time on the road this season. Could create a challenge. But again, USC has way too much talent to struggle against this particular Arizona State team. And I also said, on yesterday's episode that, the schedule isn't doing USC any favors. Stanford they're going through a rebuild, and their rebuild's going to take a really long time. But, USC is now going into game 4, and it's against another overmatched, and I'll say it again, undermanned team. So, what should the offense and the defense accomplish to make this? We'll call it a business trip. Make it pay off. Make it successful. What should we expect from both sides of the ball? So, I really, me, I don't like to use the word expect or expectation. What should we anticipate? It's a more positive approach. At least I think so. So, I want 5 touchdown passes from Caleb Williams. So, bug flying by my ear there. And I want another one from Miller Moss in the fourth quarter. And I want no interception from the quarterbacks. So, that's 6 touchdown passes from the quarterback position. Now, last year, and Miller Moss will obviously, this will happen in the fourth quarter. I think we need to have Caleb Williams play through 3 quarters. I don't know what kind of message that sends to Arizona State, but it sends the message that USC is taking this game very seriously, and they're taking their next opponent very seriously as well when they'll be on the road again. Against Arizona State last year at the Coliseum, Caleb Williams was he was just okay. He was 27 for 37. By the way, that's 73% completion rating. And he threw for 348 yards, 3 touchdown passes, but he had that interception. So, again, you want to get better? Let's get rid of that negative. He also carried the ball 8 times for 44 yards and scored a touchdown with his legs. So, if we're going to get 6 touchdown passes from the quarterbacks, I need 5 different receivers and the tight end to catch these passes. So, one apiece. You guys, leave in the comments who you want among the 5 receivers to get a touchdown pass. Lake McRee, he's already been in the end zone a couple times this year. It's Jude Wolf's time. Let's get him that stat. He has earned it. He's healthy. He's playing. He's blocking. So let's reward him. Be the perfect opportunity. Last year, the wide receivers, Jordan Addison, he had 8 receptions for 105 yards. Okay. I don't know if you're going to get one receiver with that type of number. Again, USC has been spreading the ball out. If anybody's going to be close to that number, it might be Taj Washington. I think he's had 4 in each of the 3 games. He's had at least 70 yards. So last year, Brendan Rice was the second leading wide receiver behind Jordan Addison. So we'll see what happens. From the running game, Travis Dye was USC's leading rusher last year. 13 carries, 62 yards, 2 touchdowns. That led the team. This year, USC has Marshawn Lloyd complementing Austin Jones. And I think to send a message that you're going to have a really well-balanced offense, and you can do this on the road, not just at home. You get 150-plus yards from those 2 combined. And then the rest of the running back room, they can carry him across the finish line for 200-plus yards on the ground. And you'll get there without taking any TFLs, any tackles for loss, and without the offensive line surrendering any sacks. Caleb Williams can help them by not trying to make every play a big play. Sometimes just get rid of the ball. And I want 3 touchdowns on the ground. So you add that to the 6 through the air. That's a 63-point performance as long as Dennis Lynch stays perfect, and he has so far throughout the year. That sends a strong message that not only is USC's offense lethal at home, but they're just as lethal on the road. Again, that's the type of message you want to send. As far as the offensive line is concerned, just play a clean game like you played against Stanford in the first half. You do that for 60 minutes, good things are going to happen. Riley said that he's looking to that group to set the tone early on that side of the ball. In fact, on Monday's Trojan Live show, he said, this will be a big step for those guys. Typically, good road football starts with playing really good on the line of scrimmage, end quote. I'll just reaffirm what I said on a previous episode of Locked on USC this week about the defense. I don't anticipate 8 turnovers from Arizona State because that happened last week. I don't think that's happened before 2 weeks in a row to anybody. If anybody out there has a crack research and want to look that up, I'll be happy to be wrong. But that would be a staggering statistic to know that one team turned the ball over 16 times in 2 games. I mean, that's horrible. So I do think this USC defense, I think they need to start looking like their 2022 version. Not the bad part, just the good part that created 28 turnovers last year. You're starting to get a little bit of an uptick. I think they're +3 right now on the season. So I think Kenny Dillingham, he's taken over the play calling on offense for Arizona State this game. And they're going to open up the playbook. You have to anticipate making some plays. There's going to be some opportunities there. Make things happen. Create some turnovers. So I don't need 8. Give me, 2, 3. We'll be good. But at least match that 4 sack total that Fresno State got. This should be a game where Eric Gentry and Mason Cobb, they solidify themselves as the starters at linebacker. They're both healthy. And these guys should also play through the third quarter to make sure they got their legs under them, get into football shape. No penalties from this group. Minimize the missed tackles. And, let's make sure that real talk meeting that they had earlier in the week, it wasn't a waste of time. The nickel safety position and the linebacker combination that are responsible for covering the tight end, they need to do what they did against Stanford because ASU is getting their tight end back. I mentioned that on yesterday's episode. So take away that option from Arizona State. If you guys continue to do that, you're showing the improvement, because that was one of the big areas of weakness on USC's defense in last season. If you can do this consecutive games in a row, that's a positive sign for Trojan fans. And the cornerbacks, just don't give up any big plays. Recognize that you're the superior opponent right now. And you really have to understand that the quarterback you're going up against, they're backups. And backup quarterbacks tend to play tight and conservative. So you shouldn't really be having to think that you have to defend for a long time, especially if the defensive line is doing their job. I asked Coach Lincoln Riley on Thursday's Zoom call, when is the right time to, take your foot off the gas, take the villain hat off, even though you're still trying to, send a message to the rest of the country. And he said he remembers being asked this question a few times at Oklahoma during their playoff seasons. And he didn't really want to admit it, but, this is the way I interpreted it. It comes down to, the time of the year and who you're playing and where you're playing, and if there's anything else involved. Sometimes you have to send a message, and you don't want to leave the starters in too long because you're risking injury. This is, he brought up this point, and it's a great point. Because you want to make sure you're getting your backups as much playing time as possible, but you don't want to just put the backups in to run the clock. You want to keep that rhythm going. And if they're running the same offense that the first string was running, they're going to continue to put up points. So it's up to the other team to stop you. Because, again, the bottom line is you're going in there to get a win. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. And you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. And as easy as it is to use LinkedIn to find a job, it's also just as easy to create a free job posting. Once you add your job listing, you then take that purple hashtag hiring frame and you're going to add it to your own LinkedIn profile. And that's going to spread the word that you're hiring. And LinkedIn provides you really cool, simple tools like screening questions. And that's going to make it easy. So you can just focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. Recruiting the right person for your team means a better product. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. College football season, it's here. We are in full effect, and Locked On is kicking up our coverage. Each Friday, Locked On will go live from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. Locked On College Football Live will cover the college football playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and they're going to go in depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football Live every Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On College YouTube channel. You're not going to want to miss it. Is redshirting a good thing or a bad thing in today's college football world? I'm bringing this question up because of the transfer portal. It's providing players the opportunity, regardless of a redshirt year, a chance to transfer and play right away. There's always a risk of homesickness and a lack of playing time. So making that decision, it's a tightrope act, that the head coach kind of has to walk. one of my everyday listeners, viewers, he asked this question if I would go over, some of USC's potential redshirt candidates. And then I thought about a question that was brought up to Coach Primetime. And he was asked about one of his most highly recruited players in the 2023 recruiting class, Cormani McClain, 5-star cornerback. He hasn't played much this season. And Coach Prime was asked, what was holding McClain back? And Coach Primetime's answer was perfect. He is. And he was referring to the player. The analogy or the correlation I'm making here is when you're a highly rated and highly recruited player, making the transition to college football is already difficult enough. So one thing I really do appreciate about Coach Prime is he's also a no-holds-barred. He'll tell you how he feels. Your feelings don't matter because it's not personal. It's business. And he's teaching these young men life ain't fair. So it's his judgment call. That's why I go back to when you're recruiting players from out of state and you're bringing them a long way from home, if these young men aren't playing, all of a sudden homesickness will kick in. And a coach has to decide, he might not be ready to play, but I got to keep his head in there. And there's potential. I need him down the line this season and definitely in the future. So, again, when you're using a player of that caliber, a lot of Colorado people are speculating that if he doesn't play now, these next couple of weeks, especially with Travis Hunter being unavailable for a few weeks, is it possible that, a Cormani McClain, just says, all right, I'm going to jump in the transfer portal, take a redshirt year. So who are some of the candidates at USC for a potential redshirt? I know that was a long introduction, but I wanted to kind of set the context for it so you kind of understand. Everybody's a little bit different. I'll start with the offensive line room because that's typically where you want your younger players to use a red shirt. You want that you want their body to develop, spend a year in the weight room. And before I start naming names, I'm going to walk real lightly on this because sometimes when you say, well, that player's going to redshirt, you're kind of implying that they're not good enough, and that's just not the case. But I mean, if you're like take Malachi Nelson. When you've got Caleb Williams and Miller Moss in front of you, it would be a prudent decision to redshirt your freshman year. You're just not going to play ahead of them. So there you go. I got the quarterback situation ironed out for the offensive side of the room. I don't think that's surprising to anybody. I'm going to start with the offensive line since we got the quarterbacks taken care of. Now, again, that's typically you want your offensive line freshmen to redshirt. If they're not, it's usually because you're using them out of necessity. And if you're playing freshman offensive linemen out of necessity, that's typically not a good thing. So Tobias Raymond, he looks like your typical offensive tackle. He's big, he's tall, he's got long arms, but he also looks like a freshman. He's got that freshman body. So as the late Keith Jackson and basketball coach Al McGuire used to say, the best thing about a freshman is the next year they're a sophomore. And their bodies, they just mature naturally. And, a year with Benny Wiley, that's going to be a good thing. Would they like to redshirt Elijah Page? In a perfect world, sure. But he's playing right now. He's in the 2 deep. So I'm not sure you want to take him out of that 2 deep rotation. Just let him kind of learn baptism by fire. And hopefully you're not going to see him play a lot unless it's late in games doing mop-up duty. USC they've got some good veteran tackles ahead of them. Micah Banuelos, he is USC's center of the future, and let's be honest, Justin Dedich is not coming out of the game unless you physically take him out of the game and you take away his helmet. So, we're going into game number 4, and there are others that are higher on the depth chart ahead of Micah as it is right now. So, I think that's a solid candidate for a redshirt year. Now, with Gino Quinones out for the year, Alani Noah has been getting some early season reps, but I think the health of the interior offensive line is going to dictate what happens with Alani Noah and Amos Talalele and Micah Banuelos. So we'll see. But again, don't be surprised if all of them get to redshirt, and that would be a great thing. At the wide receiver position, we already know that there's a really good chance that Rayleigh Brown is going to be redshirting. Fingers crossed that he's still around next year. Mekhi Lemon, he's been dealing with a couple of nagging injuries at the early part of the season through fall camp. But he's played. He's been in the games. But I think eventually a decision needs to be made. Everyone's allowed up to 4 games of action. So, he could play in game 1. He could play in game 7, game 12 of the regular season, and the bowl game, and still redshirt. Right? He still has that redshirt opportunity available if he so chooses to use it. The running backs, unless there are injuries to the veterans ahead of Quentin Joyner and Marion Peterson, both of them could redshirt. I'm leaning right now just a Marion. We'll see. I think it would be best if they both do. What about Cade Eldridge, tight end? Probably. We'll see, though. There's a lot of tight end talent on the way in these next couple of classes, so let's find out. What about on defense? Who are some redshirt candidates? I'll start in the trenches and move my way out. Devin Tompkins, he's already used his redshirt if anybody was throwing his name out there. He just needs to see some game action, and I think he's close to 100% healthy. Freshman Elijah Hughes, he's been opening eyes, and he's been shooting the right gaps, getting some tackles for loss. We'll see if he can maintain that. I don't think he's going to be a redshirt. Dejan Lafitte, he's got a great work ethic, but again, freshman body, and there's a lot of guys listed on the defensive line and that are ahead of him seeing playing time right now. As well as, defensive line, the Russian position, I like to combine those two because they play at the line of scrimmage. David Peavy, he's still, I think, rehabbing from the injury he had in high school. He's going to redshirt this year. I don't think anybody anticipates him playing. And if it does, it's going to be well later into the season. Sam Green, who looked great in spring camp, he's trying to recapture some of that shine. However, Jamil Muhammad, Romello Height, and, freshman Braylon Shelby, they're ahead of him on the depth chart right now, bottom line. So we'll see what happens with Sam Green. Now, unless somebody gets hurt at the linebacker position, nobody's going to redshirt. And that includes the freshman, which I think is probably one of those no-duh comments. Nobody anticipated Tackett redshirting his freshman season. Safety is another no redshirt zone. Christian Pierce, maybe, but he's out there on special teams, wrecking things up every time USC is kicking off. So I don't see that happening. When you look at the cornerbacks room, most everybody's already used their redshirt year. So true freshman Malachi Crawford and true sophomore Fabian Ross have not. Even the transfer Traquan Fagans, he's already used his redshirt year. He's a redshirt freshman this season. So there you have it. The list of potential redshirt candidates. Let's check back on this topic later in the year and see if anybody's being added to the list. I don't think so. Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you can bet $5 and you're going to get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5, you're going to get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube, and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player prop bets and more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked on and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. All right. Excuse me. It's Friday. It's the end of the show. It's the last segment. It means it's time for my Friday rant. I got something I'm really upset about. So listen up. The other day, Ohio State's athletic director, Gene Smith, he was up there on Capitol Hill in D.C. for an NIL hearing. And he was about to break some wind. Apparently, there's a new practice that's going on where recruits are asking a school for a fee simply to visit a campus. Yeah, that asking fee, $5,000 just to come be interviewed. Yeah, that stinks. Look, I'm all for NIL. However, we need to turn that part of it off post haste. Turn the spigot off. When you have high school recruits starting to put their influencer agenda ahead of their football agenda, which ironically is what got them their influencer followers on Instagram or on X, Twitter. That needs to stop. So for all of you people wondering why USC is struggling, or at least the appearance of struggling with recruiting, that 5-star player, ask yourself, should the Trojans be paying for the privilege of someone visiting? And I'm talking about that bonus fee on top of the official visit cost that USC pays for. I mean, isn't it enough to be wined and dined at the best restaurants in Southern California? Isn't it enough to be put up in a 5-star hotel in downtown LA overlooking the city? Isn't it enough to be taken on a yacht cruise and then be introduced to some of the most famous Trojan alumni in the world? This cannot become common and expected, because nothing will kill college football faster than a bunch of teenagers who think their time is worth thousands of dollars to come visit your school. And I'm asking every single college football head coach, they need to sign a piece of paper and say, this will not happen. Nobody is going to do this. Because, if you're wondering where this could be happening, take a look at some of those recruiting classes at some of the schools who aren't getting a return on their investment for some of those really highly ranked recruiting classes. I don't know, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Miami. Each of those schools have been rumored, so I guess I should say allegedly, paying high school recruits to come check out their schools. I'm saying allegedly. I've got no proof. But apparently this is becoming a common practice. I know a lot of companies pay a signing bonus, but I don't know of any company that pays an interview bonus. And that's essentially what these high school recruits are asking for. That's the difference. These young men are asking to be paid to be interviewed. If I'm Lincoln Riley, I would tell every single one of them, go to HE Double Hockey Sticks, the family show. I'm not going to say it. This is the exact opposite of what NIL was intended for. When a player like Caleb Williams or a Marvin Harrison Jr., or to a slightly lesser extent, a Bear Alexander, when they're considering transferring, they get paid after they transfer, but not for the opportunity to interview So I don't know. See where this can go. Even if we were, let's cut that price down to $500 per interview. Let's say that's the going market price. These recruits, usually they have serious interest in maybe 3, 4, 5 schools. They have unlimited official visit opportunities. So now let's say they take 20 visits at $500 a pop. Look, maybe I'm taking it to the extreme a little bit here, but I want to make sure I have everybody's attention. This whole race to the finish line, it needs to stop. It's not necessary. There is no finish line in college football. Let realignment settle itself. Let's get the 12-team playoffs started. Let's stop trying to become the NFL. Otherwise, let's just go back to the old way of doing things where players like Reggie Bush, they're being induced with marketing and NIL opportunities to leave college. And let's go back to the old school way where Nick Saban's Dodge dealership gives him that competitive advantage. I'm not into high school recruits saying, you know what? Yeah, I'll come check out your school, but it's going to cost you this much first. And then I'll consider that offer. No. I'll be back with another episode, another 5 episodes next week, because that's what we do here on Locked On USC, 5 times a week. But make sure you check back next weekend sometime. I don't know what time I'll be doing my post-game reaction because it's a late kickoff, 7:30 p.m., which means a late end time. And that means after the game, I got my obligations of interviewing and I got some articles to write, yada, yada, yada. I will get something up sometime Sunday for you. But I do look forward to our next episode of Locked On USC. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.